The following is a hockey podcast out of Vancouver and Surrey, British Columbia. It'll only consist of a lot of puck talk and even more BS, or in actual words, banter and satire. Enjoy, and as always, go Canucks go.
There's no way you can spell Jeremy Swayman without Archer Silovs. What?
You're Locked On Canucks, your daily podcast on the Vancouver Canucks, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, welcome to another episode of Locked On Canucks. My name is Trevor Beggs, co-host of Locked On Canucks and also a Canucks writer currently with Daily Hive Vancouver. Before we dive into today's episode, we got to thank you for tuning into Locked On Canucks because it is your Canucks every damn day. We're part of that Locked On Podcast Network. They're doing the most for sports fans across the world. And for our show, if you haven't done so already, make sure you go subscribe and like on the YouTube side. And for the podcast side, go follow us and leave a 5-star review because we ain't here without you, but we're also not here without the sponsors. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Place your first $5 bet and you'll get started with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. The Canucks making cuts aplenty, and we got to get into that, but we also got to get into Jeremy Swayman and his connection to the Vancouver Canucks. We touched on it at the tail end of yesterday's episode. But Kaz got some more thoughts on the situation. And again, there is a connection here to the Vancouver Canucks, whether you want to believe it's true or not. Let's get into that to kick off the show. Again, we'll also get into some roster cuts and roster predictions as well. But before we get into all that, let me introduce my co-host. Happy hump day to you, buddy. How you doing?
Happy hump day. Still humping away. I'm good for about 45 pumps. What? Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs, Locked On Canucks, assuming the possibility, okay? Yes, the possibility of Jeremy Swayman and his potentially new contract with any team in the National Hockey League somehow affecting the Vancouver Canucks. Speaking of that team, your Vancouver Canucks, there's already a connection before the assumptions, right? Cam Neely, former Vancouver Canuck, probably drop in the quote of the NHL season, real talk. Right? He has given the Boston Bruins media 64 million reasons why Swayman should have already signed with the team. Straight up, that's some diva behavior, right? That's some airing out the noise. Trevor, I would never do that to you, okay? If you and I had a little bit of a griff, I would come over to your house. We talk like men. We wouldn't talk like Cam Neely. Anywho, Silovs. Why does he remind me of Jeremy Swayman? Just a bit. I think when we touched on this yesterday, towards the end of the episode, if you haven't checked that out, go check it out. We brought up Demko a lot. But there's a possibility that at the end of 2026, Archer Silovs would have, what, maybe just under 100 starts, maybe 90 in his NHL career. And if we're assuming the best, and we want the best for this team, Archer Silovs played really well in those 90-plus games, and he's in need of a new contract, not just after Demko. And there's a chance that Jeremy Swayman, after he resets the market for goalies that have played like, what, 46 games in the NHL or like 130 in his position, that Silovs is going to get paid a lot. Straight up. This is not just a Demko thing. I don't think the Canucks are going long-term with Thatcher Demko anymore. It's not going to happen. It's a Silovs thing, and I'm not mad at it. Because if we're going down that path and paying Archer Silovs a lot of money, it means that he's had a really good run here with the Canucks over the last 2.5 seasons.
Yeah, and I think you and I are both hopeful for Archer Silovs, but again, every day is known. I've said it time and time again. This is a guy with very little experience in the NHL. But obviously there's a pretty steep upward trajectory for him. And if you want to like compare it to Jeremy Swayman in that situation, I mean, Jeremy Swayman is only 25 years old. He was actually only drafted 2 years prior to Archer Silovs in that 2019 draft. Jeremy Swayman drafted in 2017. And yeah, obviously hasn't played a ton of NHL games, but much like Silovs, he kind of came into the NHL with a bang, right? It was that 2020-21 season. He had, 7 wins in his first 10 games, a .945 save percentage, and he really hasn't looked back from there. Yeah, so I mean, goalies, they tend to be weird dudes. You got Jeremy Swayman from Anchorage, Alaska, baby. Not many hockey players coming out of Alaska. So again, with Jeremy Swayman, the Vancouver Canucks, if you want to make a couple other ties here, it's, you don't want to focus too much on what your rivals do, but, reading some teams in terms of who could be trade targets for Jeremy Swayman, and 2 teams that are popping up are the Vegas Golden Knights and the LA Kings. 2 division rivals, 2 teams who, have question marks in net, right? Aiden Hill won a cup, but hasn't played a ton. Darcy Kemper just arrived in LA, but he's on a downward trajectory. Those two teams are desperate to probably make some noise. I'd say LA being more desperate than the Vegas Golden Knights. But Kyle, is there any world in which it makes sense for the Canucks to target Jeremy Swayman, especially if they're riding the draft?
What do you do? No way, dude. Come on, we're not even. You keep asking this damn question, bro. It's not going to happen. And Archer Silovs we trust, and in Thatcher Demko over 2 years in which he wants to prove himself. Yeah, I trust the goaltending in Vancouver. Now, another way I want to bring in the whole Canucks thing into, again, what's happening with Jeremy Swayman, and we're talking about the salary cap and whatnot, is the fact that the Canucks really have to do a different job in managing their cap over the next 2 years. Yeah, there's going to be more money available to them, but this team still has to sign Brock Besser after this season, and they are about to deal with Oliver Ekman-Larsson's cap hit being a lot more, okay? I think 4 times more, 5 times more, heading into 2025, 2026, and in the future. So, again, I'm looking at this Swayman situation, and if he signs for a lot of money, I think the Canucks are going to have to start managing their books in preparation for the 2026 offseason. I don't think it's stupid to say. I know we have to focus on what's going to happen next week in the start of the season and whatnot, and it's a big season for us, and we have 3 goaltenders here, and let's just focus on that. But this does connect with the Canucks, because in 2 years, whether it be Demko or Silovs, the price of the goaltender who's going to play for your Vancouver Canucks is going to go way, way, way up than the $6 million total that they're paying right now for the goaltenders in their lineup.
Yeah, and you know what? All good things do come to an end eventually, and the Boston Bruins have learned that recently with how they've handled the Ullmark and Swayman situation. And Kyle, what have you and I talked about over the summer, right? The potential for Thatcher Demko and Archer Silovs to have that Ullmark Swayman energy. And in Boston, look, it only lasted a couple of seasons. You look at the Vancouver Canucks and Demko and Silovs both under contract for the next 2 seasons. So maybe my question to you is, how confident are you that Demko and Silovs can come close to replicating what Ullmark and Swayman brought to the Boston Bruins?
Oh, very confident. Very confident. If we like to believe that this team's DNA has a defensive structure written all over it, and a commitment to back checking and having all 5 guys play defense and all that jazz. That means that this team is going to be protecting their goaltenders to some extent, and it's easier for an elite goaltender to be who they're supposed to be when that's in front of them. And yeah, they can bail you out when there's breakdowns. But again, if there's a system in place with 2 talented netminders, their numbers are going to be through the roof. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if I could compare it to like Swayman and how he broke into the league at 940 and what he did in Toronto again in the first round of last year's playoff series, but they're going to be really, really good. And the way Swayman is moving, he's trying to reset the market. Like I feel as if he read a book or something, something happened in his life where he's like, you know what? I'm going to do this for every single goaltender moving forward. Okay. For goaltenders that don't even exist. Okay. Straight up. That's what he's doing. And let's say he does get his way, right? Let's say he signs this like 8-year deal worth like $9+ million or whatever he wants, right? And let's say he kills it, like he does an incredible job for Boston. Boy, oh boy, I'm telling you, it's going to be even more motivation for guys like Silovs and Demko to do their thing. And for Thatcher Demko, one love to the dude, straight up. When he's on, he's worth $8 to $9 million. That is the truth. It's the truth. And he's getting paid like what, 5+? And now he's been going through all these injuries and whatnot. And you best believe he's going to be so motivated. And again, if you and I want the best for the Vancouver Canucks, we want this guy to come back and kill it over the next 2 years over the next over the end of his current contract with the Vancouver Canucks. Like, we want what's best for the team and for him. And that means he's lining himself up for a big deal, not just Silovs. And it's fascinating. It truly is. And again, we want the best out of Brock Besser. That contract's going to be huge. Oh, yeah, you got Quinn Hughes coming up in a couple of years down the road. Like, managing the cap based on what may be the new standard for a goaltender, a number 1 goaltender, albeit one that's got like 130 starts, and Jeremy Swayman is something that not only the Canucks are going to have to deal with, but every team across the league who, wants to cement themselves with some solid net mining is going to have to deal with.
Yeah, 100%. And Again, I think I'm very curious to see how it plays out with Swayman. But for your Vancouver Canucks, I think the takeaway is let's enjoy it while it lasts. Thatcher
I know.
Demko and Archer Silovs, right? Because again, both these guys have 2 years left on their deals. When those contracts expire, you're still paying OEL $4.7 million on his buyout the season after that. Look, it's going to be hard to keep, both of these guys, but, especially with a guy like Thatcher Demko, if he comes back and he's the same goaltender he always was, he's going to be pushing $10 million a season at that point, which seems like a crazy number, but it's not that crazy when you consider how good he's been and how the cap's going up. So I think with Thatcher Demko and Archer Silovs, enjoy it while it lasts, because my guess, Kyle, and I think you share the same thought, is that Demko probably has 2 years left in Vancouver at the most. And at that point, if Archer Silovs keeps progressing the way he does, it'll be Archer Silovs' time in Vancouver.
And man, like it's before this Swayman thing, again, I'm projecting for Silovs to get like 80 starts and do his thing going into the end of his deal in 2026. And yeah, sure, he's going to get paid a lot more, but I'm wondering if that number goes from like getting paid $4.5–5 million per year to like 8 right away because of what Swayman is doing right now for the goaltenders. And again, it's basically stemming from my heart and my assumption that Silovs is going to be great. He's going to be great. He's going to be amongst, some of the best goaltenders in hockey. I believe in him that much. Anyways, Kyle, Trevor, do you want to say something right there?
No, I just want to answer. I saw a comment from Andrew asking how long the OEL buyout is, and he said 3 years. It is 7 more years starting this season. So the way it plays out with the OEL buyout is it costs $2.35 million under the cap this season, $4.76 million under the cap for the 2 seasons after that. And then for the 4 seasons following that, it's about $2.1 million. So a lot of OEL paying to go. And again, it's going to affect the Canucks negotiations, especially for the next couple of years when that buyout penalty balloons to $4.7 million. But that's a tomorrow problem. Let's focus on it today. And we got one of the best goaltending tandems in the NHL. As soon as Thatcher Demko comes back, let's go, baby. On the other side, this Canucks team, the roster got a lot smaller. A lot of cuts made yesterday. Let's get into some of the cuts, some of the biggest surprises, and maybe get into some roster projections for opening night. What? All that coming up on the other side after we shout out our friends over at Game Time. You know the deal, baby. If you're buying tickets, there's no other place you should go than Game Time, okay? Because Game Time, they're one of the best in the game, but now they're stepping up even further with this new feature called Game Time Picks that makes getting tickets for your favorite live events even easier. Game Time Picks filters out the fluff, filters out all those dudes trying to rip you off, charging double price for tickets. And Game Time Picks filters out that to show you only incredible deals on great seats, so you don't have to waste time searching through thousands of tickets, all right? Also on the app, you got the seat views, you got the lowest price guarantee, and all-in pricing, okay? So there's no surprise fees at checkout. And of course, you got that Game Time ticket coverage as well. So if COVID hits again, Game Time, they got you covered. So take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Go download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account, redeem code LOCKEDONNHL for $20 off. Download Game Time today. What time is it? Game time.
Okay, we back doing this thing that's talking about your Vancouver Canucks. Kyle Bound, Trevor Beggs, man, oh man. Welcome to you and you and you and you and you and you on the YouTube live that we're doing right now, and to all the podcast listeners in the post. Do us a favor, hit the like button right now and give us that 5-star review, man. Straight up, Christmas is coming up, and maybe we deserved it. Who knows? If we didn't deserve the 5-star review, you don't got to do it. Okay, that you don't want to lie to yourself. What did we used to say on the program? Okay, if you want to set yourself free, you got to tell the truth. But if we did make you feel good, leave us that 5-star review. Now, Trevor, the comments, man, going off. They're going off, man. You preach that you use FanDuel, okay? But FanDuel not available in BC. But little people don't know this. And again, Trevor doesn't like to air out, everything about himself. And he's not like I'm not trying to be the Cam Neely or anything. But again, Trevor, man, he lives close to the border, and he's actually a quarter or an eighth American. Right? You're from Nebraska, something like that. You got some roots in Nebraska. Something's going on. Trevor knows how to use FanDuel the right way. Okay, just focus on yourself. One love to FanDuel. Straight
VPN,
up,
baby.
VPN. Oh, whoa, man. Oh man. Okay, look at this. Look at this comment from Jimmy Honeywell. Okay, before we get into the current version of the Canucks, and don't worry, we'll talk about the lineup. But again, fast forwarding to next year, the Canucks are going to have to make their decision during the season, okay? It's 2025, 2026, and Jimmy is saying, hopefully we take notes from Boston and we sign our number one goaltender before we get rid of our backup. Man, oh man. Boston trades Olmark in the summer. They think they got Swayman locked up, and next thing you know, they got 64 million reasons to stress the F out right now. Next year is going to be super fascinating. That being said, let's focus on the now, like Trevor said, and I'm curious to pick your brain about what the Canucks did with their roster yesterday.
Yeah, so I mean, you guys probably know by now, but the Canucks cut 13 players, and the most notable ones would have been Jonathan Lekkerimäki, which was probably shouldn't be a huge surprise, right? I mean, he put up some points in the preseason, but when you look at his competition for that spot alongside Pettersson and DeBrusk, where he primarily played, I would say he was probably outplayed by Höglander and Daniel Sprong, right? And Daniel Sprong at practice yesterday was practicing with DeBrusk and Petey, so potentially that is your opening night top line or second line, whatever you want to call it for your Vancouver Canucks. The other surprise cut to me was Phil DiGiuseppe. Now, again, he requires waivers, so he could be claimed. As of right now, it doesn't look like he's been claimed, but he's been the entire season with the Canucks last year. Kyle, with guys hanging around at camp like Baines and Aatu Ratu, Nils Amon, are you surprised at all that Phil DiGiuseppe was cut by the Canucks?
A little, because I actually liked his game in the preseason at some points.
Yeah.
Like I feel as if, honestly, he was more consistent than RC Baines. But at the same time, I think there's some math going on in the background that kind of forced them to do something like this. I'm not the math dude. And I'm also just curious to see if the organization that is your Vancouver Canucks is focused on rewarding their players, like their young players, and shedding light on the fact that if you put in the work in the offseason, there's a chance, okay? You can crack this opening lineup, and we're going to make tough decisions on your behalf because you're that young player, you're that protege. Come get an NHL check, start the season off with the big boys, okay? You're going to get rewarded. And that's something that I totally understand and I'm with, because we're talking about PDG. PDG, try hard, gave us a lot of good memories last year, right? Including a game? Was it in?
It was Game 7. He scored the backhand goal.
Game 7. What are you talking about? Game 7? Wasn't it? It wasn't Game 7. It was I think it was a game against Nashville or something, or what? You know what I'm saying? Where he scored that goal after he just had a kid, or was it a game against Edmonton? He gave us a beautiful memory. He actually missed a breakaway in Game 7. Okay, Trevor, trust me, I have nightmares about that. Okay, Pettersson sprung him, boom, bam. Anyways, he provided a lot of good memories. A workaholic and pretty decent on an average penalty killing unit. You know what I'm saying? But at the end of the day, it's just PDG, and we got a lot more things to worry about. And again, rewarding Baines and Ratu, it's what you got to do, straight up, moving forward. And I don't think anyone's going to pick up PDG, to be honest.
No, and again, it's tough right now. You know, most rosters are crammed. Everyone's looking at their own guys, worrying about their own guys who are potentially going to be on the waiver wire. So, yeah, I don't think PDG is getting claimed either. So, but again, I thought he, worked hard in training camp. Like you, I see some praise for Baines. I think Baines, don't say he was bad in preseason, but I thought a guy like PDG probably showed more in terms of the forecheck, fits that fourth line role a little bit more. But man, oh man, what an opportunity for RC Baines here, the pride of Surrey. And we should have the Surrey boys back, man. What are we doing here? Come on, man. What do you think? I mean, RC Baines sticking around. There's 27 guys left on this roster. That doesn't include a couple of guys that entered reserve. Is RC Baines making this team?
That's interesting, man, because I don't think he wowed the brass and the fans consistently in the preseason. And I think he got definitely overshadowed by Lekkerimäki and Aatu Ratu the whole time. But you can still see the raw tools there. I feel as if he's faster than he looks. He's bigger than he looks. He plays big. I think he's got to loosen up. I think this there's a certain amount of pressure that he puts on himself because he's literally living the dream. Straight up, Surrey native playing for the Vancouver Canucks. I think he's taking it a bit too seriously because we need him to be more instinctful, right? But it's hard to be just that when, again, everything is coming true. Again, playing for the Vancouver Canucks, he's putting a lot of pressure on himself. That being said, I did look at the lineup from today's practice, and he was the extra. They had Ratu back with Garland and Hoglander. I think they had Amon, Bluger, and Kiefer Sherwood. So I don't know if I don't think you know what, bro. If they're going down the route of rewarding young guys, I think Ratu definitely gets in before Baines, and Baines is a healthy scratch in game 1.
Yeah, exactly. And, Nils Amon is still part of this equation too, right? And, I think you could argue that PDG also outplayed Nils Amon, but the thing about Nils Amon is, again, this team does not have great center depth. And although Nils Amon, I think, is one of the slowest players in the Canucks and really doesn't offer a lot, didn't wow at training camp this year like he did the season before, he still brings a lot on the penalty kill, right? Every time he's on the penalty kill, that's when Amon is the most noticeable. Big, rangy, long stick, tends to be good at breakups. So again, there's just more value there in a player like that. And I think the Canucks are more worried about losing a player like that on waivers as opposed to a guy like Phil DiGiuseppe. The other big roster decision the Canucks have to make.
PDG cleared. I think PDG cleared. PDG cleared.
Yeah, good
He's
stuff.
still with the Canucks. Boom, bam. Are you concerned about Pio Suter, though? He's missing another practice.
A little bit concerned about Pio Suter because there hasn't been too much of an update there. And again, you got Bluger, who is now back at practice, but he hasn't been totally healthy either. I mean, look, all this screams is a big opportunity for Aatu Ratu, right? And, I see Callum saying in the comments, Aatu Ratu is a placeholder. A healthy Teddy Gluger owns the 3C spot. Not if he's not fully healthy and maybe looks a bit tentative for whatever reason. I mean, we haven't seen this guy play a hockey game yet, right? We'll see if he gets in on Friday. I assume he probably will get in on Friday, but again, Aatu Ratu, we've talked about it time and time again. Every Dayers know he's arguably been the best Canuck player this preseason. Even in a night against the Edmonton Oilers with the depleted lineup, I don't think it was his strongest showing. But considering the experience of the Oilers lineup versus what the Canucks had, I thought Ratu played really well. So he has earned the opportunity at this point to start the season with the Vancouver Canucks and start in the opening lineup.
And I feel as if it's so weird how the world works, and you obviously do not want people to get injured, but we talked about this a couple of weeks ago, or maybe like last week, and we referred to the fact that I see Aatu Ratu being able to give us similar minutes and also a similar outcome that Pio Suter gives us daily. And there's nothing against Pio Suter. I actually really like Pio Suter, really intelligent player, but I feel as if we're not going to miss him based on the momentum that Aatu Ratu has right now. That being said, get healthy, man. A lot of things, like in our bottom 6, you know how the Canucks were like, people are like, the Canucks have the best bottom 6 in hockey. Josh was not there. Pio Suter's not there right now. And to be honest, that's not really that ideal, man. I was looking forward to seeing the whole unit come to fruition game 1 of the regular season, or, even on Friday during this preseason game.
Yeah, and we'll see how close they get. Like I said, there's still a couple of days to go. We're at Wednesday now. Last preseason game is on Friday. But man, oh man, we're 1 week away from the actual season starting. Oh, baby. Good times ahead for your Vancouver Canucks. Let's finish up our notes about roster cuts on the other side. Get some of your comments as well. Again, you're listening to Locked On Canucks, your Canucks every day. We'll be back after we shout out our friends over at FanDuel. All right, you know the deal, baby. If you're in the NFL, NHL, you can start the season with a big return on FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, you can check out the latest stats, view live play-by-play, and so much more on the same page where you place your bets. You can start with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. And man, oh man, I'm not a big MLB guy, but I do know some people who have been knocking it out of the park with their MLB bets on FanDuel, okay? So maybe if you've got some baseball people in your life, or if you're into baseball yourself, go check out that pitching matchup and go place a few bets. Again, FanDuel, they are America's #1 sportsbook. Go check them out on FanDuel.com.
One love to FanDuel. People, we back doing this, and that's talking about the current version of your Vancouver Canucks. My name is Kyle Bowen. That right there is Trevor Beggs. One love to the Don't Doze Art Lab for giving us the space to help you produce. Will help us produce the show for you and you and you and you and you and you. Speaking of which, hit that like button right now, man. Hit that like button right now. Christmas coming up. What are you gonna get your girl for Christmas this year, man? I'm thinking about getting my girl. Honestly, it'd be nice to get her a purse, man. I feel like if I got her a purse, man, she'd be nice to me for a full 12 months, man.
I thought about giving her my sperm, having a third kid.
Oh, okay. I like that. That's one of the greatest gifts you could give. Honestly speaking, I'm not there yet. 7
Oh,
years,
man.
man. 7 years. I got a part-time vasectomy. You ever heard of that? It's 2024. You can get the
Part-time
vasectomy.
vasectomy?
You can get the vasectomy, and then you can unravel the vasectomy down the road.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's one of those things. So I can
Mm.
save the environment and not buy rubber.
Mm.
People are geniuses, okay? Straight up.
There you
Anyways,
go.
Bagsy Bowen doing our thing. Again, we're not here without you and you and you and you and you and you. And man, oh man, these comments, man, going off, okay? Going off on Trevor. They don't believe that you're part American. Say what you want. Bagsy is an American son of a gun. Hey, speaking of which, I do want to give a shout out to a member of the CDC forum. Were you a member of that stuff? The Canucks forums?
No.
Canucks.com.
Sorry.
What? Okay, well, you just lost some points. You're not a real Canucks OG then, okay? For real.
Kyle, you know me, man. I barely use technology
Oh, that's true.
outside of doing this podcast with you, buddy. So
That's true. Okay, you were doing something else at 10 years old, 11 years old. You were just a little rebel, okay? You ever seen the show That 70s Show? Trevor was one of those characters. Anyways, Mother Nooker from America actually gave us some sad news on the Discord, and he told us that a long-term member of the CDC actually passed away. His name was Rip the Mesh, and he had over 20,000 posts on the CDC forum. A big member of the Canucks community. Rest in peace. And you know what? You're still going to be able to witness the Stanley Cup, okay? Because I know you're going to be watching from above for a very long time. Condolences to your family. I can't believe you never used the forum, though. Like, all jokes aside, it's honestly, before YouTube and all that stuff, that was the place to be for Canucks fans. And it was a lot of fun. I was Hank to Dank. I can't believe I locked down that username way back in the past, but I did so.
Yeah, good times. I missed out on that. I was too busy trying to hit up girls on MSN Messenger. That was my first experience with the internet. So everyone's a little bit different, man. Some different guys among our listeners, some different guys in the Canucks organization. Kyle, I just wanted to rip through the rest of the roster cuts here in case you have comments on any other players. So 4 players placed on waivers. Looks like they've all cleared. Philly Giuseppe, Nate Smith, Christian Wolanin, shaky preseason for him, in my opinion, and Yuri Patera.
Oh, Patera got claimed. Patera got claimed by Boston. Trevor Beggs, man. This is why you got to use technology, man. Patera gets claimed by Boston. Boston, like, again, the whole Swayman thing, it's all connecting. Don't worry. It just happened a couple minutes ago. Straight up.
All right.
Straight up. Patera got claimed by Boston. What are the chances that we're dropping this episode, doing it live about Jeremy Swayman? I'm telling you, whoever's watching this or listening to this, you're at the right place, okay? All the good voodoo was here, where the West Coast bias was. I was about to say born. That's not the truth, but the West Coast bias is used daily and only here.
Yeah, look at that. And that must not be a good sign for the Jeremy Swayman contract negotiations, eh? If they're claiming Yuri Patera. I mean, because right now, what is it? It's Jonas Corposalo, Brandon Bussey, if I'm getting that right. And then Michael DiPietro is the third guy on the depth chart there. So now Yuri Patera, I guess he's better than Brandon Bussey.
You're not allowed to say Bussey on here. You're not. You're actually not.
Oh, my bad. So yeah, there we go. Yuri Patera, him and his 8 NHL games played. That handsome devil himself, man. The Canucks just got a little less handsome today with Yuri Patera being claimed by the Boston.
Your wife's a happier gal. Your wife's a happier gal, because I guarantee you've called your wife beautiful less than you've called Yuri Patera handsome over the last couple of weeks. And Trevor, that is the problem with you, buddy. That is the problem with you, man. You're not living in the moment, buddy. You're just living in assumptions and, like, want the best for Yuri Patera. This guy didn't play one game for the Canucks, and he was your favorite player. Unreal, man.
Yeah, I fell for the eyebrows and the smile. That's for sure, man. And hey, in terms of my wife, I try to call her beautiful all the time, but I'll tell you a story. We were at a Christmas party last year, and there was met my coworker's husband there, and my wife goes to me. He's like, "Damn, he's just like a manlier version of you." It's like, thanks, baby. Thank you. That's the problem when you're Connor Garland size. Okay, you got to fight for every inch.
Dude, what's going on, man? Your wife saying that to you, and my girl making fun of my bald head or my balding head? Come on, man. What are we doing here, man? Thank God for the Canucks and their fans, man. Speaking of which, look at Kurt Richardson. Okay, I don't really agree with this, because I feel as if the Canucks just want to hold on to all the talent they can, right? Because playoffs happen, and Tocchet loves his puzzles, but he's saying that Suter could be a trade piece, expiring deal. for a team needing a bottom six center. What do you think about that? Let's say Aatu Ratu does his thing. He plays well. Maybe they get some more production from RG Baines, whatever, right? Is this a possibility? Some asset management courtesy of a Pius Suter trade?
I think it's 100% a possibility. I mean, look, the Canucks, what have they done ever since Alvin's come to town? They've been pretty quick to move on players. If they senses are underperforming or if there's other guys stepping up in the role, right? I mean, I think Riley Stillman's a guy that came to mind, obviously. He didn't work out. They traded him, Curtis Lazar. Now, if Aatu Ratu steps up and is a legit NHLer, I mean, I know the team doesn't have the greatest center depth, but Pius Suter spent most of last season on the wing anyways. I mean, I certainly see a world where, again, if Aatu Ratu steps up and is an everyday NHLer this year, Blueger stays healthy, you got Neil Zaman in the fold, I could certainly see them trading Pius Suter for some assets. Again, freeing up some dollars, maybe getting an additional contract in the door. And again, I think every dollar is going to matter for this team. I'm curious to see how they utilize LTIR heading into the season because, again, they're going to have some cap space to work with. And we all know this team, they could definitely use another defenseman in the fold.
You trade Suter, you get a 4th round pick, a 3rd round pick, you package that 3rd or 4th with the bigger package, right? Involving a defenseman. I like it, man. I like the bigger package, man. Straight up, never had one of those, but I like it. Anyways.
Yeah, you and I can both relate on that one, buddy. Here, let's before we wrap up, let me rip through the rest of the cuts from yesterday. These guys didn't have to clear waivers. Linus Karlsson, Ty Mueller, Max Desson, Christian Felton, Cole McWard, Kirill Kudryavtsev, Elias Pettersson, I should say, and Nikita Tolopilo. So I think, good news for Nikita Tolopilo. He's not even competing for starts in Abbotsford anymore. He's kind of the guy down there with Yuri Patera not clearing. Mm-hmm. And in terms of other guys, I think Ty Mueller really stood out to me in the preseason for good reasons. Linus Karlsson got a lot of love, but again, just became a numbers game. I don't think he stood out enough. And Kirill Kudryavtsev, man, this guy is climbing the depth chart, baby. 7th round pick to potential first call-up option for your Vancouver Canucks. Really liked what I saw from Kirill Kudryavtsev in the preseason.
Holy, we're going to have to end it on this note because it can go dark really quick. You know what I'm saying? And tomorrow I do want to touch more on like the whole Sprong Pettersson thing. I'm curious to see how they do in practice and if Daniel Sprong can be like the cheaper and more desperate Andrei Kuzmenko. And when I use the word desperate, it's like, yo, listen to talking and play some defense and you'll be in the lineup and you'll get paid. You know what I'm saying? All that being said, you just brought up, what's his name? Kirill Karachev?
Sure. Kudryavtsev.
Okay, this dude being possibly the first call-up. Man, oh, man. Vincent Desharnais and Forbert playing together. I'm not sure if they're paired together today on practice. I know that was the case yesterday. That scares me, man. That scares me, and I do want to dive into this maybe on Thursday or maybe tomorrow as well. I'd rather have Noah Juleson playing than both Forbert and Desharnais every day. And maybe that's the Surrey bias, but again, this is the home of that West Coast bias. Speaking of which, one love to you and you, and you and you, and you and you. We got t-shirts, man. T-shirts coming out next week. Lining that up. Game 1, regular season. It all begins. A lot of things beginning for Trevor and I, and you and you, and you and you, and you and you. That was a fun episode. One love to Silovs and Demko. Go get paid, okay? Go win Vezinas and Conn Smites and like Jennings Trophy. Share the Jennings Trophy. I don't care. Go get paid. It is what it is. It's best for us, and it's best for you guys as well. Begsy, I know you're American, but you're also, full-time, pretty much a white Rockrian, a Vancouverite, and you love that West Coast bias as well. Sign us out.
Yeah, I'm not planning to get my Maple Leaf tattoo removed anytime soon. But maybe I'll get another tattoo if the Locked On Canuck dollars keep popping in. Again, shout out to all of you, especially Jimmy Honeywell, aka Jimmy Hungwell at nighttime.
Whoa!
In the comments, dropping,
you have to say that,
secret.
Man.
It's just the truth, man. Shout out to all of you, from the everydayers to the first-time listeners. Again, if you like what we're doing, make sure you go subscribe and like on YouTube, on the podcast side, follow, and leave a 5-star review. Again, we're getting closer and closer to the regular season. Lots of season preview stuff to come here on Locked On Canucks. But for now, we got to get out of here. I'm Trevor Beggs. That guy's Cal Bound. And you've been listening to Locked On Canucks.
Peace, peace, peace. One love. Take care of yourself. And take care of your neighbors. Good night.